Okay.
Press the
We,
right
we are
buttons
we
on
are
the
now
right.
live recording, handing over to Andy to do his startup story of digital advantage. Over to you, Andy.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thanks for tuning in and listening, giving us the time. I'll tell you a little bit about me, then I'll tell you a little bit about the company. We are based at Federation House, so I feel like amongst friends, but obviously beaming out to sunny Canada as well, so that's great. Yeah, I'm MD and founder of Digital Advantage. We've just become a charity or a charitably incorporated organisation, which has been quite a pain in the arse, I have to say, although hopefully we're in the right place now. But it ain't half the job setting the charity up. So I'm, MD and founder. It's a digital training company, but I don't do digital training. I am one of the world's worst trainers. And I couldn't do this without the team. My business partner, Ezra, who I've known for about 25 years, we play cricket together. We were at postgrad university at MMU together. But he is really, I think he's the brains behind the business. Lucy, Rav, and Sean, who's recently joined us as well. So those are our full-time members of staff. We have a great board of trustees, Naomi Timperley, Kate Dodd, and Ashley Baroda. Naomi and Ashley were also our trainers. We have a whole bunch of trainers, and because I don't do training, I probably don't know them all, but there's a bit of a name check there. Again, Naomi, Paul, Vic, Simon, Ruby, Seamus, who's on the call, got you in there, Seamus, Bernard, Liz and Anne. And those are associate trainers. Our model is to have a strong core team and then trainers who are really domain experts, who are brilliant professionals, who are great communicators. Not necessarily what you might call trained trainers. They're just brilliant professionals who are great communicators. A story of a late developer. I arrived in this world 2 weeks late on January the 1st, much to mine and my mother's chagrin, and I seem to have done things a bit late ever since. Apart from leaving school, which I left school early, I was fairly rubbish at school. Later found out I got dyslexia. I was an apprentice in Stoke, Michelin Tires, which taught me one thing, that I didn't want to work in a factory with loads of broke blokes. So I left and went traveling. I met the editor of then City Life magazine, Andy Spinoza, in Greece. And then I joined that cooperative as the person that sold the advertising. I was the only non-journalist or non-creative in a creative business. That was a cooperative that grew. That was my first experience of social enterprise. It's had some brilliant moments. I've also had quite a lot of strife involved. Mostly that was becoming quite big. There were 20 of us by the time I left, and it was virtually impossible to make a decision. I went to university late. I wanted to do something that I wanted to do. So I did politics and history in London. And that was really probably about finding out who I was as much as anything else and what I wanted to do. I was reasonably good at that, so I got offered to do a PhD back in Manchester, at Manchester Met University. My as yet unfinished thesis was called Towards a 24-Hour City, and it was about the emerging nighttime economy, which is my excuse for why it was never completed. I first did a proper startup when I was 35. Became a company director. It was a strange affair, which was a partnership with the city. It was the Creative Industries Development Service. So it was an agency to help creative businesses start up. So that was the kind of turn of the millennium when I did that. I went to work for the Northwest Development Agency. This was my public service, and the last time really I worked for a large organization. Again, worked there for about 3 or 4 years. My main job there was getting the BBC up to Manchester. But quickly found out I really wasn't very good at working in large organizations. Wasn't very good at big pointless meetings and opaque structures. So kind of left there really. and set up my first company, which was called the White Room. That did really well. It was a limited company, digital tech training company. We ended up getting some big contracts in London. I ended up spending half my time in London. It did really well. We sold it to a media tech company. I got kind of morphed into that, and I became their UK MD. That was my first experience of really working with in tech industries. And needless to say, it didn't really work out very well. Didn't lose any money, didn't make any money. But I think lessons to take from that is do a lot of due diligence before you merge with another company, especially with a different culture. 2 years later, I bought the and by this point in time, it was obvious to me that we needed to be a social enterprise, that I was less interested in making money and more interested in making a difference. So setting up as a social enterprise was a kind of logical thing to do. Context of that journey. It took me ages to realize this, but finding out what you can't do is probably just as important as finding out what you can do. A lot of entrepreneurs starting up a business think they can do lots, think they can do everything. Very few people can. So find out what you can't do and then work with people that can do the other stuff. I think I've always been entrepreneurial. Got the usual stories of not doing a paper round, doing other jobs, starting small businesses when I was small. I think it's probably because, like my father, I was a bit of a non-conformist. I really don't like being told what to do. That showed at school, at college, and for every large organisation I've been in. I've never been what you might call a good employee. Never one really to toe the line unquestioningly. I really don't like big system structures and my inverted commas stupid rules. And I'm not brilliant at detail. I get bored very quickly, and yes, I can be a pain in the arse. But that's okay now, though, because I think pain in the arse is now called disruptors. So I'm quite happy being a disruptor. Enough about me, what we do. I've arrived at a place in my life where I'm doing the best work, I think, that I've ever done, that we've ever done. We're a digital training company. We take digital skills through experiential learning by digital making to young people. We inspire them and we pull them through to work in the digital economy, hopefully. Digital Blast is our primary program, which we ran last year to 20 schools, completely disrupted by COVID, and we spent the summer switching that online. Our pop-up digital agency is our work experience for kids, getting them to make films, websites, digital marketing campaigns whilst they're at school, so that when they go and speak to employers, they've got something to show them. Go Digital is a program that, again, we've just finished. We partnered with Innovate Her and Hive, both Hive residents, to deliver that to 50 schools across Greater Manchester over the last 18 months. That was kind of 13, 14-year-olds. 75% of those kids were women. And again, that's trying to get people to inform their choices early on at school so they can help themselves get the skills, aptitude, and line of sight to work in the digital economy. Digital Inc. is probably the thing I'm most proud of. That's our digital program that works with special educational needs young people, and particularly those with autism. And yeah, we've got a schools program that is funded by a private company, and we've just set up upstairs in Fed our supported internship. Digital Blast, that's our primary program. Why should you do digital skills for primary kids? They are the most creative, original, imaginative young people that you can imagine. And unfortunately, it goes to show that, let's say the UK education system squeezes the creativity out of kids as they as they go forward. That was an absolute joy to work on, and we're delivering that commercially this year. Go Digital, talked about that. Design sprint, digital assemblies, design sprint, digital making, or the deep dives, visits to workplaces. We reached about 2,000 kids with that last year through our assemblies and our one-day sprints, and we worked intensively with about 400 of them. Again, a real joy to work with. That's our pop-up digital agency. This is aimed at 16 to 18-year-olds. We go into schools and colleges and we set up a digital agency. In a week, they build a digital business proposition through that process. It's hard work, it's tough, it's run like with the discipline of and deadlines of a digital agency. By the end of the week, they've built a brand, built a website, built a digital marketing campaign, and made and produced a 3-minute elevator film about their business proposition. It really reaches kids that don't like learning by rote, that likes getting their hands dirty, and kind of strengths-based learning, really. We've had some amazing results with that, and some brilliant businesses created as well by some 16 to 18-year-olds. So Digital Inc. is our thing that, like I say, is closest to our heart. I have a 12-year-old who's got autistic spectrum condition. He's high performing, he loves code, he likes being technical, and we trialed our pop-up digital agency in some SEND schools, and it worked amazingly. We have a program where we work with 100 kids over the year, and that feeds into our year 2, which is our supported internship. This is the first time this has ever been done in the UK. So this is like a year 14, but instead of a year 14 at college, they have a year 14 with us. We're upstairs on the 2nd floor at Federation House, and we've got 15 young, brilliant kids, most of them with autism, others with other disabilities. And we're running it as a digital agency. Up until Christmas, they're learning and honing their skills, working in teams, developing their own business ideas. And then in January, we open up and we will do live briefs. We've got companies wanting to work with us. We've got companies that want to offer these young people extended work experiences and hopefully employ them at the end of the year that we're working with them. It's innovative, it's new. It's quite stressful, but it is absolutely amazing. An example of which, there is one of our young people has been a selective mute for 2 years, and it took him 2 days to start talking to everybody, including his parents, who he hasn't spoken to for 3 years. So they're absolutely overjoyed. We're a social enterprise. We don't have many grants. Mostly we have contracts and contracts with public sector bodies. Those are the contracts that we've got, and the supporters that we have. Federation have been absolutely fantastic. It's been really central to the way that we've grown our business and the community there. We've worked with a lot of other companies in the building. We've got Claritas Asset Management in the corner. They're our first philanthropic donors, so I think times are changing for us. We have got beyond our startup stage now into a growth stage, COVID permitting, but again, we couldn't do it without our partners. This was just off the top of my head. Startup do's. I didn't do startup don'ts because it's kind of not for me to tell you what not to do, but know what you don't know, and work with others that do know. That's about the team, understanding yourself, to thine own self be true. And I think until you do that, you will never have a satisfactory business life. Understand your IP as well as your USP. A lot of small companies don't understand what the essence of their stuff is and understand the value that they're sitting on. Speak to a lawyer, but don't pay one. When you're starting up, lawyers are very keen to engage with startup companies. I really don't think you should be paying a lawyer till you got through your first year. But do get an accountant. So many people start up businesses without getting an accountant. I have started up businesses without getting an accountant. And come that year end, you know what you always have to do is get an accountant. Get a mentor. Don't do it on your own. It's a lonely place, or it can be a lonely place running any business. So get a mentor, or 2 or 3. I have had some brilliant mentors over the years, and I couldn't have come on my journey without help and advice from other people. Business model, not business plan. I'm not sure anybody has ever read a business plan that I have written. The Word document that's 16 pages with cash flow forecasts and that kind of thing. Business model is the only thing you need to do. Somebody challenge me on that, please. Also, business model development of the business model canvas. Think about yourself, what you really want to achieve through your business and in life, and apply the business model to yourself. I found that really, really useful. Lastly, be honest. We've all told lies. I've told lies, and I've always lived to regret them. Be honest with yourself and others, and life will be a lot more simple. Final thoughts. I'm part of the very long thing, Greater Manchester Social Enterprise Advisory Board or something. And we're trying to create an eco structure where social enterprises can start up. And Gary, who's the CEO of the GMCVO, said nobody ever gets advised when they're younger to start up a social enterprise. And it's like, I wonder why not? Why is that the case? Do you have to be older to set a social enterprise up? Do people but I think the time has come really for social enterprise, especially at the difficult times and the changeable times that we're in now. I thought I'd have a kind of different business quote. And Martin Luther King, not a notable entrepreneur, but that quote I think is very relevant then and is just as relevant now. So that's me. We are based at the Fed, and for those of you in this country, in this city, come up and see us sometime. We're doing great things, and it's a joy to work there.
Amazing. I'm just like, I will come and work for you, Andy. Like, it's absolutely amazing what you're doing.
Oh, it is. It's lovely. We really.
And I think your reflection there of starting social enterprises is a really interesting one, because I'm pretty sure, I'll find out if I'm wrong from Beth, I'm sure Beth's a social enterprise.
She is.
Yes. So we've got double social enterprises represented today. So I think that reflection of, is there a link with age and people starting up social enterprises? I don't know. So has anyone got any questions? If you would rather, I've seen Hannah pop one in already. I was going to say, people want to unmute themselves and ask it directly. That's fine. If not, I will pitch the questions. I'll see if Hannah unmutes herself. If not, we'll ask the question.
Yes, sorry, I wasn't sure whether I was to unmute or not. Yeah, really interesting, Andy. You mentioned about realizing what you can't do and finding those people that can. And I was just wondering, sort of, what do you think is the best way to find those people? Because a bit of background about myself, I was just looking to start my own business, and I found it quite difficult to find those people that I wanted to talk to about and discuss my ideas, because I was a bit like, I feel like you're too close to being a friend, that I don't want you to be judging me or being too honest or being too nice about things.
Yeah,
trying to find balance.
Yeah, I mean, that's a difficult one, really. And me and Ezra are business partners now. And we've been business partners for 5 years, but we've known each other for 25 years. I've always been part of businesses with people I've kind of known, but don't know too well, that I've known in a professional capacity. I've also worked for a family business as well, which was a disaster. Because blood is thicker than water. I don't think there's a one-off answer for this. I think you've kind of got to trust your intuition, but also do your due diligence. Take time to reflect. Don't rush into anything. I haven't been involved in business, or I've had people involved in my business that I regret, and that was through rushing in, not taking time to reflect, and not doing a bit of due diligence, not doing the business model canvas and seeing how they fit in. You know, what can you do? What do you need others to do? And again, being honest with yourself about what you really need, what you can do, what you really love doing, and what you are, and what you need others to do. It's kind of what I say. It's a really difficult one. Not knowing you, not knowing your friends, cast the net widely. I would say don't start the business with anybody that you kind of don't know and trust implicitly. Don't rush to employ people. Take your time.
Rachel, I know that
Oh.
I've not talked. I don't know whether or not it might be just quite interesting for me to follow up with what Andy said as well. Just I've got a few really similar things to say.
Go for it.
But just I think it's quite interesting because I obviously as an ex-teacher when I left, I know some people don't know what I do yet, but when I left teaching, I wanted to have, it was really important to me to have another teacher on the directors board. And I've got a lot of my best friends are teachers, having been a teacher for 10 years. And I didn't actually choose someone who was one of my close friends at the time. I chose someone else who got very different experiences to me, but someone who I trusted implicitly. But she's now actually turned into one of my best friends. And it actually rubbed up quite a lot of my friends quite badly about the fact I hadn't chosen them to be a director. So that didn't, that was, but then I also have got one of my best friends who is a director. Because she again is someone I trust with my life, and then I've got Seamus and me, but who's also in the chat now, and Naomi, who are people who I trust. I didn't know at all, but then I got to know them. But I think as well, just in terms of it is I think it's really difficult because then on the flip side though, I also previously had my ex-partner as the director, and then getting someone off your director's board when I'm going to speak to them is quite difficult. But so it's just that balance really of making sure that you need people you trust, and also the more you work with people, as Andy's already said with Ezra, in terms of the more you work with people, the closer you are going to come. So actually the people you work with do, like they do with your work colleagues, they intrinsically end up becoming your close friends and your allies. So I think it's just, but I also think sometimes don't be afraid to let people in and help you, because people do want to support you more than you probably realise as well.
I think I'd seen Danielle, you sort of asked a question as well around Andy's experience of engaging with young people.
Yeah, with girls, really. So have girls inspiring them, have role models there that can inspire them. Don't open up we opened up the creative and digital sector to look at all the kind of avenues in there. There's a big push on to get women into STEM and coding, and all the women I know in tech, actually some started straight in coding, but others went through different doors and ended up in coding or science. And I think providing the role models, providing the kind of line of sight and the access routes, but also opening up our networks of female entrepreneurs and people that work in the sector to young people as well. And again, people are really willing to kind of inspire the next generation to come through. And then it's the same as anything. All the work we do is strengths-based, it's experiential, letting people loose on stuff, getting them making stuff, doing stuff with others. People in the creative field learn by doing with others, as well as learning their technical stuff. And certainly UK education system is geared up for them not to be able to do that, which really drives me crazy. So encouraging girls to express themselves, their creativity, taking down barriers where you can, getting that done through inspiring female voices, and kind of opening up your network and just giving them that line of sight and that roadmap to get there. I think that's kind of it really.
Oh, awesome. I had one question that it was really interesting. You said that you'd started your own business at the age of 35, and I suppose I was just interested to sort of get your reflection. Did you find the experiences that you'd had up to that, it sounded like it kind of gave you the confidence to start your own business at 35? I know people start in businesses at all different ages, but it was an age that was quite close to mine, and I was like, oh, I wonder. Like, I was just curious around the reflections of how much your experience sort of prepared you to get to that point, and had you wanted to start a business earlier and maybe put it off?
Yeah, I kind of always wanted to, because I didn't really fit in. So I kind of always wanted to, but never had the kind of chutzpah to do it, balls to do it. I've always found excuses not to do it, or I kind of tinkered, and I kind of had a company in name only, and I'd done little bits of this and little bits of that and things like that. And I think, like I said, I think I'm a late developer, you know. And you know, it's right for some people. I would say it's right for some people when they're 16. It really frustrates me actually how there's no very little mechanism in the UK for that 16, 17, 18-year-old with that brilliant business idea just to go and do it. And even if it fails, you know, do it and learn by failing. And we don't have that culture in this country, and it drives me mad. It took me longer than I would have liked to have started my own business, you know. I kind of love to be looking back for 25 years now, and you know, and say I started my business at 16. It was late for me. People are going to come to it. It's never too late to start your own business. Let's leave it like that.
No, I think that's a good one. It's never too late. There's lots of people that start businesses when they retired, and they're like, there's a gap in the market in this sort of space. Yeah. So
can I just pick up Greg's question now, because he's done this. Greg, you've done this recording for horses. We used to provide apprentices to a company called Music for Cats, and it's audio recording for pets at home. And that is a multi-million-dollar business. It employs about 3 people. It's an amazing business. And I was thinking, it's like, how do you do a business providing music for cats? So if it can do it for cats, I'm pretty sure you could probably do it for horses and horse riding as well. So look up Music for Cats, Greg. There might be some inspiration for you there.
Awesome, thanks, Andy. Were there any other questions for Andy at all? I wasn't sure. It sounded like you were making some good notes there, Hannah, so I wasn't sure if you had any other questions that were eager to get out.
Well, I do have a few other questions, but I feel like they're aimed at both speakers, so I don't know whether you want me to hold them till the very end, or they're quite generic questions. That's why it's more...
I can hang around.
Is that okay? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Fab. Super duper. Shall we bring it over to you then, Beth?
Yeah, no problem. I apologize. Like I said before, I've got 2 things on because technology is not my friend today. So 1 second, sorry, while I just go onto my other device and share my screen. Okay, so hi, my name is, my name is Beth Nunn, and I'm the CEO and founder of Pi Pursuing Individual Excellence. Like Andy, we are like Digital Advantage, we and Digital Link. We are a social enterprise, so obviously we aim to have a social impact and work as a not-for-profit basis. The one thing I would always sort of emphasise is people talk about not-for-profits and think that you can't make any money, and without wanting to sound really vulgar here, like actually not-for-profits that you can make, it's not that you can't make a good living for yourself. And I think that's something that I was taught really early on in my journey by various people and mentors, and I think it's really, really important to know that even as a not-for-profit, it doesn't mean that you don't have to pay yourself, because actually it's from the outset it's about valuing yourself and valuing your time. So just from the outset in terms of us being a social enterprise. So who am I? My name is Beth Nunn, I'm 34, so a little bit younger than Andy. Started my entrepreneurial journey a little bit earlier, and I'm passionate about education and making young lives brighter. So just a little bit about my journey so far. So until 3 years ago, it's scary now talking about the fact that it's over 3 years ago. So I had 9 years experience teaching and management in inner city high schools. I taught at Chawton High School in Manchester for 9 years. In that time, I started there as a newly qualified teacher. I was an English teacher. And then in that time, I worked as the pupil premium coordinator for the whole school. So that meant that all the young people who were on free school meals, I did all the coordination of their additional provision, the support, the careers provision, all the additional revision. Worked very heavily with year 11 for a long time, and like improving outcomes, improving exam results and provision. And then I ran the on-site social inclusion centre for 2 weeks. So for those of you that are not aware of what social inclusion centre is, rather than young people being excluded or young people who particularly struggle with mainstream schools, rather than sending them elsewhere, a social inclusion centre will support those young people and offer them alternative provision. So I ran that on site for 2 years. Actually, that's the first time I met Andy, when Digital Advantage came and delivered a session in the green room at Chorlton High School. So that was years ago. I did not realise at that point that I would know Andy years later. So during my career, I, like I said, I started off, and a few years after starting teaching, I became a literacy coordinator, which meant that I tried to help implement literacy across the curriculum, which sounds really rock and roll and exciting, as I'm sure you can appreciate. And then I just took up every experience. I was a staff governor, so I was like a governor of the school for 4 years, which involved a lot of really boring meetings until about 10 o'clock at night. And at that point, I didn't really understand what I was getting from it. I was asked to do it because I was an approachable member of staff who people would talk to, and who also didn't mind talking up in front of the head teacher in meetings. But I was always, you know, I was on school trips all the time and this, that, and the other. But actually, all the stuff that I did at that point, not for money, not for additional pay, really helped lead on to my next opportunities in school. But also everything I did within my teaching career has helped me in what I do now with Pi. So that's my first bit of advice, is whatever you do in life, like in terms with your job, with if you are starting up your own organisation, take every opportunity that you can, because you never ever know what it's going to lead to. Just in terms of like a really random thing, like obviously Seamus here, who's on the call today, he's one of my directors, and, you know, a really good sort of friend and peer now as well. And actually I know him because I spoke at an event similar to this at MNU a few years ago. I was asked to as a volunteer, and I've got to know him and involved. So it's that idea of every opportunity. I think as an entrepreneur, the more opportunities you take, the more you realise how important that is. And it doesn't have to mean necessarily just networking. It's all other opportunities. I think that's the most valuable way of networking. I'm getting ahead of myself now. So 9 years of, and after, so just over 3 years ago, it was February 2017, and I actually fell down the stairs. So I was running down the stairs one night quite late, and I fell. I slipped and I fell and banged my head quite badly. And the next day I got up and I drove to school, as I did every day, and sat in the green room, the building that I used to run. And then I went over to staff briefing, and I sat next to my friend Alice, who was an NQT with known her for 8.5 years at that point, and sat next to Alice in briefing. And after 2 minutes, she looked at me and said, "Beth, are you okay?" I said, "Yes, why?" And she said, "Because you haven't spoken for 2 minutes, so there's clearly something wrong with you." And again, those of you that know me will realise that's quite funny. And at that point, she then took me, she said, I banged my head last night. At that point, I got taken to the office and then sent to A&E, where I was diagnosed with a concussion. So I went home for a week and wasn't allowed back to school for a week. Within that time, I then purchased my 2 cats. And 2 weeks later, I'd resigned from my job. The reason being that time that I actually had at home made me reflect on my life, where I was, where I wanted to be. And at that point, I decided that all the stuff that was really frustrating me about school and education system, and if any of you who ever had anything to do with the education system outside of being a student, unfortunately, it's not always the place where you can be creative and make the most impact. So I made a pretty drastic decision that rather than, like Andy did, I didn't sort of make my way in the business world and figure out what I was going to do. I quit is a drastic word, resigned from my established, secure job, which had a very clear career path ahead of me, to start out on my own with no idea what it was I was going to do, and no idea how I was going to fund it. So yeah, that was sort of what I did, and that's how I ended up funding Pi. So got 35 experience of caring about others and wanting to make the world a better place. And that's I think that sentence, I've played around with the sentence for years in presentations like this. And I think actually that sums me up better than anything. Like, I care more about other people than I do about myself all the time. And I do genuinely, I do want to make the world a better place. And for me, certainly in this country, unfortunately at the moment, it's been epitomised more than ever, the fact that we do not live in an equal society, and we do not live in a world where everyone's got the same chances and opportunities as others. So I want to try and help make that a reality. So we were formed in November 2017. We are soon coming up to our 3rd birthday. So like I said, we're an educational social enterprise, ensuring students from all backgrounds are future readies. We believe that actually, this obviously stems from my own belief, but the more I think about this, the more people I work with, we as an organisation, we take everyone with us on this journey. We believe that your background should not influence who you are, what your opportunities are, and what your future should hold. So we work with young people to help make sure that they can reach their full potential, and also make sure that young people have the opportunity to understand what their full potential could be, because a lot of young people from certain backgrounds don't have that encouragement, don't have those opportunities to explore some of the possibilities out there for them. So I'm just going to go through really like a few slides and sort of talk through my tips and things. But just so, first of all, to tell you a little bit more about PIE. So we aim to ensure students are future ready. So we do this by working on 5 key skills. We refer to them as the slices of the pie. Sorry, once an English teacher, always an English teacher. So we've got lots of metaphors. So actually the first thing I did when I'd left teaching, so I mean, I left teaching in the July. I then had a summer, which was great, when travelling around Vietnam, and then came back on the 1st of September. I basically sat at home and cried all day because I didn't know what I'd done. I didn't have anything to do, didn't have any meetings, didn't have any meetings, didn't have anything to meet anyone about. And suddenly I just basically thought, oh crap, what have I done? But then what I started to do was I had a lot of focus groups. I arranged meetings with students. My old school were amazing in terms of they allowed me access to students for focus groups. And I met lots of business leaders, further education, higher education leaders, parents, staff themselves. And we thought about actually what do young people need? What are they leaving school lacking? And these are 5 things again and again and again come out. So communication, project management, community links, digital and cultural capital. So those, every single programme that we deliver now, those 5 things run throughout it. And actually what's really interesting is one of my directors, who's also one of Andy's trustees, a lady called Naomi Timperley, at my first ever meeting with Naomi, which I thought I was going for a coffee, and we ended up having 2 large glasses of wine, which sometimes that's what you need in business as well. And she basically sat down and said, no, I'd got about 15 different things at that point, and she said, these are the 5 things you need. And still to this day, I've still got that notebook which has got things that Naomi circled, because I knew straight away that she was someone who knew what she was talking about. This is where I'd sort of been elsewhere, and she said, you need that solid mission. So from then on, we've had our 5 slices. So taking that advice and learning quickly who you can trust. I'm going to come on to that a bit more in a minute as well, but taking that advice, like I know education, I know teaching, I know young people, but I didn't necessarily know what would make a solid business. And I think actually having that solid mission and taking that advice has been really important. I'd never done a single bit of business studies in my life. Like, I did quite a few startup courses, which were really helpful, even if they didn't necessarily teach me things that I needed to know. They gave me a bit of confidence, and they made me feel like I was going to be an entrepreneur, which was quite scary. So in under 3 years, that's actually gone up, that number now. We're now on about 1,800 young people. So we've worked with 1,800 young people throughout the northwest of England. We've developed and delivered 13 different programmes and workshops. That's soon to be 16. We've got 3 new workshops coming up. We worked with young people in 14 different schools, 6 different community organisations, and within 11 different local authorities. So like I said, we work throughout Greater Manchester. We've worked out in Liverpool. We've worked in Preston. We've worked in Blackpool as well. And we've also partnered with 15 other VCSE organisations, so it's voluntary charity and social enterprise, to deliver projects that make an impact to young people. And we deliver careers advice and workplace visits to over 1,000 students. So that thing as well about the partnerships, that is something that I feel is absolutely vital. So in terms of partnering with other organisations has not only been vital for PIE, but it's been vital for me as well, because when you're starting out and if you're alone, if you're a lone person in the organisation when you first start out, it is really lonely, it is really scary. So to have those partnerships and to have those people is really, really important. But it also means that we can obviously look at a much bigger scale if we're looking partnering with other people. We can also diversify and learn, just what Andy was saying before, learning from other people about the things that we're not very good at. We offer digital skills. I've got no digital skills whatsoever, but I know people who can help to offer that. So exactly what Andy was saying before, do what you can do well, then get other people to do the other stuff. So in terms of our target market, we started off targeting high schools in Greater Manchester. These came from my previous network and hassling people on Twitter. For those of you that remember Educating Greater Manchester, I worked in Harrop Fold the year they were filming the second series, which never actually got shown for various reasons. But that was, you know, I started where I knew. So I stayed safe. I worked in high schools in Greater Manchester. I was a part of the Greater Manchester School Network. People knew me. So I stayed safe. So my target market to start off with was staying safe. I did what I worked with year 10, year 11 students because that's who initially I wanted to work with. However, we are now quite versatile and we have a range of different programs and projects that we have delivered. So we do Future Ready programs, still that's our flagship program with the year 9, year 10 students. We also now deliver that to year 12 students as well. After being approached by Connell Sixth Form College, we do coaching, we do workshops, we run an Empower program, we do peer mentoring. We do a lot of transition stuff with year 6s into year 7. So we regularly run 3 completely different programs for transition, which is hilarious because when I left teaching, I said I was never going to work with a year 6 or 7 student ever again because I hated working with that age group. And that's now my biggest area of work. So again, be versatile, even if don't think I don't want to do this. It's really important sometimes to think about the bigger picture a little bit more. We've also recently diversified a little bit more to work with women. So I know that Andy was talking before about working with women. I'm really, really passionate about supporting other women. I'm extremely proud to be a female CEO. I'm extremely proud to be a female business owner and to have started out on my own and done it myself. And I think I love working with other women and I love working with groups of girls. I'm currently running 2 programs in a school in Blackpool, female-owned groups, and I love them. Like, I've only worked with them for the last 2 weeks, but I love working with groups of girls because it's to be able to inspire the next generations. Like, what more could we want as anyone, let alone as educators? The Wave of Change program is putting women who are out of work in Stockport, and we were in the middle of our 2nd program and got funding for a 3rd program in January, and I would never have thought I'd have done that. But again, that's come from a collaboration, someone approaching me to work with them, and that's been phenomenal. And actually that really supported me during lockdown as well, to have that program that I was supporting others on, but I gained a lot from that as well. We've done loads of something again that we never thought. My 5-year plan was, well, we'll go digital when we're at 5 years. That changed somewhat on the 23rd of March. So we sort of went digital overnight. We started, the first day the schools were closed, we were delivering resources, daily online challenges and free resources for parents and for young people. And we also support MMU by offering placements of final year students. So we've got 2 students who've just started with us. I haven't even met them yet. Everything's been done remotely, which is quite good because one of them is currently in isolation in her household. But yeah, so in terms of, we really diversifying what we're doing, but also what that doesn't only enrich us as an organisation, but it enriches me as well and keeps me motivated and keeps me passionate about what I'm doing. Resilience. If you are ever, I think anyone who's ever wanted to run a company, you need resilience, you need bucket loads of it, because things are going to absolutely go tits up. At some point things are going to go wrong, and you need to just be able to shrug it off. Like, I think I've got tougher skin in the last 3 years. I've probably developed more resilience than I had in the 31 years before that, because you just have to get on with it. The last 6 months especially, like, we had huge challenges, like literally overnight. In March, we had almost 100 grand of potential funding in that just disappeared overnight. So all that disappeared. We couldn't deliver our programs. We had marketing, business development, sorry, I'm losing my words now, business development meetings with like the Co-Academies Trust that suddenly, again, that was in the pipeline. We're still trying to get back with those people. Obviously the person who introduced me is now left. But that kind of thing, we had other schools we're in meetings with for programs this year. That all disappeared overnight. So, but then what we had to do was we had to diversify. So as I said, we'd never done any digital delivery before. So overnight, we were working with the group of young people you'll see in that picture who are all holding things up. They are 4 young people who I've worked with over the last 2 years. So since they're in year 6, they're all now in year 8. and they were doing peer mentor sessions, and when I text all the parents to say we can't have the room anymore, I'm sorry, we're going to have to stop the sessions, like I literally sat at home crying because of the lovely messages I got back from their parents, just about what they got from our programs. And so I decided overnight, like, I texted and I said, do you reckon we could try and do a Zoom session? And it was amazing. And so all through lockdown, until the measures were lifted, we actually had weekly sessions, and I managed to get different pots of funding to keep working with them. So we so what they're doing there, that they actually organise their from Bridlington, which is sort of one of the most deprived areas of Stockport, and they actually ran and organised the big lockdown event. So from remotely from home, they organised an event which impacted and supported 50 families across Stockport, and that included making learning packs. We made activity packs of sock puppets, random. If you get 12-year-olds to come up with ideas, it's bizarre what they come up with. And we took afternoon tea to 30 families around Stockport. So we did that. So we did various different learning activities, the Hope stuff, like we had some amazing work from different schools. We did Zoom sessions. We did stuff that I'd never thought that we could do, but actually what that's really done for us as well. We delivered learning packs. That's given that to Jen at MEA Central, the school who amazingly, like, we're now developing a relationship with to do future work because of the stuff we offered them during lockdown. We did stuff to make sure that we were supporting young people, because there's a lot of challenges. Certainly young people we work with has needed that support more than ever during lockdown. And actually for us, what it's really done is it's raised our profile more than I would have anticipated, and more than I would have hoped for if it hadn't been locked down, because we've been able to do wider stuff and work with a wider group of people. It's really changed our outlook for the future. Make friends. So there's be some I'm very really important, as I said before, in networking, to make friends with people. People will support you, people will help you, people will carry you with them on their journey. So all of these organisations, this is just like a small percentage of the organisations that we've worked with in some form over the last few years. Either people we partner with, people are sponsored by, people who we got funding from, people who've delivered workshops for us, people who we collaborate with, people who've delivered workshops for us. So just making friends, like networking and everything, not necessarily your traditional let's go out, I mean, not that this happens anymore, not necessarily going out and like, oh, let's go like to a random networking event and see who I can speak to, but actually really strategic. So things like JCI offer as well, or using organisations like the Fed to actually have that really sort of specialised networking. And that's something that I think we've really gained from the Federation as well. Just be nice to people. Like, my biggest piece of advice in life is just be nice to people, but I think that's generally who I am in life anyway. But also, you never know, like, what you might want from people. So, Hannah was on the call as well. She's sort of led amazing social media sessions for me before, and I've just asked her nicely, and she's done it because she's dead nice too. But hopefully, it's that thing. Hopefully, at some point, I'll be able to offer her help and support. So that's it. Just being networking is everything, but also it's just like doing favours to people, and don't be afraid to ask for favours as well. It's always really weird now, because we actually took on our first members of staff this year. So rather than until November last year, it was just me. I did everything from doing the accounts to doing the delivery to doing the planning to doing the emailing new pens when we needed them. But we've now actually got, it's my sister-in-law actually works for me on doing admin work. She works one day, we're building up to 2 days a week now. And I've got Caroline who delivers for us as well, who's an British teacher. I've constantly, since the beginning, talked about we. So I've talked about the royal we, and everyone's always like, oh right, we, who's on your team? And I'm like, just me. But I think just in terms of talking about we, like, it used to make me, and it also really helped me differentiate between me and the organisation. Like, even though I am the company, I'm not. So when I was talking about we, I sort of, my mindset, I can cut myself off a little bit from pie as well as obviously helping other people buy into you as a big organisation. But yeah, so keep learning. Obviously, I'm a big advocate for learning and education as a teacher and as an educator, but I'm a massive, I learn myself constantly. So I've sort of taken part in programs with, not actually, we've worked them in realities at some point, but I've had funding and been on support programs with Unlimited, School for Social Entrepreneurs, being on a program with Common Purpose, which is amazing, meeting other leaders. EY Foundation, obviously we were in Fed. We're actually just about to finish our funded desk space. I'm very sad about it. I have to start paying for next week. And I'm about to start next week as well, the School for Social Entrepreneurs. I did the startup course with them a couple of years, like finished last October. I'm about to start the trade up program, and I genuinely believe, like, not only is learning like important to us to keep us inspired and motivated, but also in terms of I'm an educator, so I need to keep educating myself, but it also really helps build that network and helps you have fresh and different ideas. So keep learning, like no one, I always say, like, in terms of in your business, like, you should know everything about what you, not everything, but it's like, I don't know everything about education, but I know a lot about it and I'm passionate about it. But I'm not an expert at business, so actually I need that support all the time, and I need to go out to people to look for that, but also to build my own confidence as an entrepreneur. Find your people. Sorry, Shane, this is a picture of you here. Find your people and pick who you choose to listen to carefully. Like I said, I was quite adamant when I first started about who some of my directors would be. My friend Heather isn't on the picture, actually. She's one of my best friends, has been since school. She's a non-exec director. She's not actually an official director, and that's sort of a decision that we made as friends, because legally she didn't want to be tied to the company, but she wanted to be able to support. I've got Seamus, who's on the call, and yes, I photoshopped your hair, Grandad. And then there's Naomi and there's Susanna as well. So like I said, they're all people, they literally like held me together. As an organisation, they give me great advice. They challenge me as well, because when you're on your own, it is difficult to keep that challenge up. And then we also, so also just like some people will give you enough advice. Like there's one guy when I first started out who told me I'd never get a single penny out of schools. I really enjoy it every time I see him and can tell him how much money I've now get out of schools. So don't, like, some people will try and put you down and will try and make you think that you can't be successful. So you've got to have faith in yourself and in your products and in your organisation. Things change. This is like in terms of, if you're going to start a company, things are going to change, but people will change, but life's going to go on. I think that's even more evident at the moment than it has been ever before. But starting as an entrepreneur is going to make things different. It's going to change your life, but it'll be amazing. I'm not very good at celebrating my successes, so maybe put these on my slides a bit ago, in terms of celebrate it, and you have to learn to shout about yourself a bit more, because I'm not very good at that at all. So just in terms of, I put the mitre one up, so obviously that's a JCI listed thing. But yeah, so celebrate your successes. And my biggest thing in life is, well, if people, the only way to get ahead is to get started. I hate meeting people who say they want to do things and they don't actually do it. They just talk around it. If you want to do something, you want to start a business, start it, get going. I know it's a really difficult time to do that at the moment, but if you want to do it, then only you are the person who is going to stop you. So yeah, and again, is a doer, not a dreamer. So again, stop thinking about it and start doing it, and also just have belief in yourself. So yeah, there you go. Sorry, I've really rambled on there. So thanks.
Definitely didn't ramble. I like that quote, like, entrepreneurs are doers, not dreamers.
Yeah,
I feel
it's
like
genuinely one of those things that I have, like, it's, some networking things, particularly in the VCSE sector, like you go along to, and the same people there all the time. And it was really interesting. After like the first year, I was going along and people were like, oh, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. And I was like, you were saying that last year, and you've been doing it for a year then. And now I'm here and you're there. And I don't know. I think it's because for me, I had such high stakes. Like when I first started, I had a year's worth of, I saved half my salary for 6 months when I resigned, and basically lived on a pittance like for the first year. And I had to make money in the first year, otherwise I would have to go back to my job. So I think that determination for me, like, really drove me. But yeah, if you want to do it, otherwise don't stop talking about it.
Yeah, no, I think
that's a bit hard for me.
Quote. I think that's one I feel like I want to tweet after today. Being an entrepreneur is a doer, not a dreamer. Did anyone have any questions?
Just say I said it, like, well, just like it totally came from me.
Beth said.
Just get on with
Beth.
it. I'm just looking at the questions now.
Yeah, I was just checking.
I have
Go on, Hannah.
Sorry, always me again. So Beth, you mentioned obviously you got into it because you had those days at home and you thought about what you actually wanted to do and things. And I know a lot of people are thinking that at home at the moment, especially with everything going on. They're wanting to sort of future-proof themselves, and they're thinking about other little side hustles that they can sort of set up. Mm-hmm. And you've just touched on then that you had saved money to basically, so you knew you needed to make more money in the first year.
Yeah.
But what other things would you say that people should have in place before they before they either make that decision to jump ship, or
As someone who had nothing other than the money for a year to go back, I think in terms of like, even I'd say like an idea, but I didn't really have, like initially I wanted Pi to be like a work experience thing, which I quickly realised that that is a logistical and administrative nightmare, so forgot about that. But I think like just, it's funny because a lot of things that I'd say, I'd be like, oh, have the support of your friends and family. I didn't have the support of my family at all when I started. My dad didn't speak to me for 2 weeks when I told him that I'd resigned from my job, because he obviously saw it, again, a bit more like his generation's like, you have a job, you had it for life. Like he worked at Norwich Union his whole, from 18 to when he was made redundant at 55, and he didn't understand at all. It's like, you're walking away from a safe job, and I was like, this is, and I think that they didn't really get it. I think they thought I was throwing something away. I think they thought that it was just me having a bit of a whimsical, like, oh, I'll do this and I'll go back to teaching again next year. So I basically told them I was on a sabbatical, but I wasn't. But that's like how I got around it. Like, I was like, yeah, I can go back if I want to, which I would have been able to. But yeah, I think that like to have things in place, I think you need to financially know that you'll be okay, because that's really important, because that is going to put the stress on it. But also have like a bit of a backup plan too. Like I could have gone back to teaching. I did do supply teaching. I did do a bit of tutoring on the side, like in the first few years. I've not had to do that for the last year, which is great. And I made a conscious decision, because then the issue was the things I was doing on the side. Then I was doing loads of tutoring, and then it got to the point where I was like, I need to be doing work for Pi, and I'm doing tutoring instead. So that's when I had to make a conscious decision. But I think you just need to be ready for like the slog, like in terms of it's not going to be easy. And I think so have some funding to back you up. I also, like, I'm really passionate. I don't know if Andy would agree with me, like in terms of we've not had any, not taking any loans, we've not had any like investments and things like that. Like you don't need to a lot of the time. Like, so obviously we're really fortunate that we're not fortunate. I made a conscious decision that we're a social enterprise, so we can apply for grant funding and things like that. But until this year, we've always been, last year, I think we were 65% trade funding, like 35% grant funding, which is quite unusual for a social enterprise in the first years. But I always made sure that I didn't want to be grant reliant. Unfortunately, that's changed a little bit this year, but that's fine. But I think just in terms of making sure that you've got, don't, like, prioritize, I completely forgot what I was saying now. It's 7 o'clock. My brain switches off then.
It goes around the kind of tips of like what sort of things you might need to make that plunge and funding and.
Yeah, I think don't, that's what I was going to say. Don't take, because and now I was like, oh, do you want social investment? I'm like, no, I'll invest in money, I'll get staff when I know I can do it safely, because I don't want to put me or anyone else in that position. I don't know if you'd agree, Andy, on that.
Yeah, cash, whether it's a social business or a big corporation, cash is really important. You've got to have enough cash in the bank. When you're doing a business plan or a business model, remember to put your wage in, which a lot of people don't. Really rack your brains, do a kind of big risk assessment on your business and actually see where those hidden costs are. Who's going to pay the insurance? Who's going to pay the power, heat and lighting? How much is a new computer going to cost? So entrepreneurs, I think, are natural optimists. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have to kind of stop yourself and do proper reality checks, or get somebody else to do a proper reality check for you, because it's like, great business plan, it's fantastic, turning over £100,000 a year. How much are you paying yourself? Oh, I didn't put that in. And it's like, I
think 2 things on from that, Andy. I think first of all, like I've tried to, the fact that I just said, like, obviously we've had 18 months of funded desk space at Fed, which has been phenomenal for us, like, and it's really sort of changed our mindset as an organisation. And we're now starting to pay for that. So I've always been like, no overheads unless I need them, no overhead. But actually now, whatever we're going to pay for like a flexible desk space a month is not much to us as an organisation, whereas a few years ago that would have been a massive portion of our sort of monthly budget. So I think in terms of, like, I've kept the overheads as low as possible. And then also someone said to me very early on, which again, in terms of valuing myself, like someone said, if you went back to teaching, how much would you be earning? Because you can do this, you can work as a social entrepreneur, you can work your ass off for the next 5 years, and that's great. But at some point you're going to run out of steam, and you need it to be worth your while as well financially. So I think I had some really good advice from the outset in terms of making sure I did factor myself in. So yeah.
I had an education sort of themed question, which I suppose, given that you both kind of got an education background, I thought you made a really interesting point there, Beth, around, you know, you're working in education and it's important to kind of keep yourself educated. But then I thought there was a really interesting point that Andy was linking back to as well, around the kind of cohort of young people that you're working with, around like learning by doing. Mm-hmm. So where's that kind of middle ground? Like if you were, you know, in that sort of startup phase or looking to start a business, like, is there anything that's useful to educate yourself on around starting a business? Or is it like, you know, you outsource the stuff to the people that are the experts that are educated in like accountancy and stuff, to what Andy said? I just thought it was a really interesting question. I'm asking as I'm doing an MBA myself, and now I'm feeling like a fraud.
I think in terms of, so interestingly as well, I've just thought what Andy said before, and I, like, apart from, like, I've paid an accountant from the outset because maths is not my bag, like, so in terms of I don't want to go to jail, so I've always paid from the outset. I'm like, do you know what, that is worth my money, paying someone to know that I don't have to worry about it. Some people love doing the taxes. I do not love doing anything to do with that. But I actually, on the flip side, I've always found it really interesting, and I apologise because I know there's like some marketing and social media people in here. I've never paid anyone to do, I've paid people to make videos for me, but everything else I've done myself. So I made my own website after Naomi told me I had to. I was told me I wasn't allowed to pay someone because I could do it myself, and I have, and now I still run my own website. And I think I've actually became a jack of all trades. Like, I never thought I could make a website. I never thought I could do marketing. I never thought I could do anything. So I think also, like, you have to learn by doing, like you just said, Rach, like in terms of like, do things, because you can probably do a lot more stuff than you think you can. But also, on the flip side, as Andy said, as soon as I don't have to do that myself anymore, or if I don't have to, I'm paying other people to do it. So yeah.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, everybody's got their kind of, everybody, no matter who picks up a self-help business book at some point in their life. I probably picked up about half a dozen. I've probably read about half of one because I'm dyslexic. I don't know why I keep buying books. I'm not really good. I'm a really slow reader. And I think my inspiration and my education has really come from my mentors, people that I've come across, sometimes been introduced to, sometimes just come across through happenstance, who get me or get us and get what we do and are prepared to put a bit of time in to help us do what we're doing. And you definitely learn on the job in this. You can't run a business without running a business. It's therefore, if you can surround yourself with people that you know, people that you can trust, people who are empathetic with what you're doing and are prepared to put the time in, then that's, I've learned so much more from mentors that I've had over the years than anything from self-help books. On the kind of technical side of things, on the the professional side of things, then the recently departed Ken Robinson, the most watched TED Talk, but I was lucky enough to kind of meet him in person and see him in the flesh, and what a man, what a human being, what an inspirational educationalist. So it's kind of mixture, isn't it? So it's a mixture, but you can't beat a good mentor. And getting your team, that's the thing, getting your team together, really, whether it's informal team or your formal team, but it can be a lonely place starting a business, and getting that team around you is really, really important.
I think as well, just sort of leading on from what Andy said there, like a mentor, I can't emphasize that enough either. Like, I've been very fortunate. I've had a number of different mentors now, like, all at very different stages, and have all brought completely different things. So just like anywhere you can get a mentor. So like the EY Accelerate program that I was talking about before, like, I have not sort of really engaged that program at all, apart from with the mentors. But I've actually got two phenomenal mentors from them who offer me a completely different insight than anyone else. They're like really financial, and they've really, really helped me, because I've never had someone talk to me and understand my business like they do before, who've got that mindset. So just mentors, 100%. But also as well, if you've got a mentor you don't click with, just like get rid of them. Like, if there's a mentor that doesn't work with, don't waste your time, because I think that that's the thing. And
mentoring's a nice theme, because that I think, whether you're kind of at the startup stage, if you're thinking about it, like whatever stage you're at in your career, in your business, like you say, somebody who's starting up, somebody who's further along, like mentoring at that level, then when you're like further on, like you might be able to mentor somebody else. I think that's a really nice sort of theme of giving back. I've seen Hannah's got a question. Do you want to ask it, Hannah? I think it's a really good one around COVID.
Yeah, I think obviously beforehand anyway, it can be quite challenging to motivate yourself, especially when you're the sort of the boss and you can make your own sort of hours and things. And obviously with COVID, it's even more so when you're just at home. So how do you sort of combat it? Whether you want to be truly honest and tell me that you just have those off days and stay under the duvet watching Disney, because sometimes that's what I do. But also if there's any like tools specifically that you have on your phone and things that you're using on a regular basis that helps you keep on track of everything.
I mean, we've got, most of us live in South Manchester. We've got a base fed. I can't remember now the last time I went into work. It was probably last week when I was told to get out of the way, because I was in the way because they were moving furniture. And it's Google Suite. We're a charity. We're fortunate enough to be able to have the Google Suite for free. So that's good. Hangouts, good. Teams, bad. Zoom, pretty good. It's conversations. It's just conversations, human interactions. No matter how distant they are, keep you sane. But also, if you want to stay in bed all day under the duvet, do it. Sometimes you need to. My duvet is walking up a big hill. Sometimes with the family, sometimes on my own. But you need a kind of, it's human condition, isn't it? You're going to stir crazy. You're just going to keep those human interactions going. And as much as you can, whether it's virtual beers at the end of the week with the team I haven't seen for 2 weeks, or regular meetings, conversations, and then getting away from the computer completely and walking up to the top of a hill.
Just again, completely reiterating what Andy said. So, like, if you need duvet day, have one. Like, I think if you're starting up your own company, you are going to have days where you are working 14, 15, 16 hours a day and the rest of it. And also you work at night because you just never ever, like, certainly at the start, you just never, you'll dream about whatever you're doing, like even more so you do with a job, because it's the essence of you. And if it's your company, then it is like your baby almost, and things like that. So then sometimes, like, if you need, but then what that also means is you never properly turn off. So even if you're having a day off, you don't turn off. Like, I'll quite regularly on Sunday morning open my laptop and start replying to emails and stuff. So I don't have a full weekend very often. But sometimes, like yesterday, I had I was, first of all, obviously waiting to hear what Boris said. Then I was, my cat was at the vet, so I was worried about my cat. And I was also waiting and buying a house this one, and hopefully moving on Friday. Still haven't exchanged, and very stressed about that. So literally at home yesterday, I was just like, my head was just everywhere. So I was like, I'm not going to the office because I just need to sit on the sofa, be under a duvet. I actually started Googling Christmas films. I thought, this is what's needed in today's life. So I went on Netflix and found a Christmas film, not just Christmas, like a Hallmark Christmas film, like the pure absolute crap. And I just sat under the duvet and I was on my laptop doing things, but yesterday that's what I needed to do. And so I've been in the office, it's 8 o'clock this morning, I'm still here now, and I've had a really good solid day. But sometimes if I hadn't had that day yesterday, I wouldn't have done it, and that's kept me motivated. Because also as well, what's the point in owning your own business and being your own boss if sometimes you can't give yourself the day off? So I think that's it, in balancing it out, but keeping motivated. And I think as well, like for me, I'm just motivated because I'm doing what I want to do and I love what I'm doing. So I think actually if you're doing what you want to do, what's that cliche about, if you love the job you do, then you'll never work another day in your life. I mean, I do feel like I'm working like a lot of days in my life still, but I do not feel as drained now. And it ever gets to half term, all my teacher friends are like, oh, are you working? They're like, do you want to do something? Like, I'm working. I'm still working. I can't. And they're like, oh, you're not having a half term after, you're not sad about that? I'm like, no, because I don't care. I don't need every 6 weeks. I don't need a week off anymore. But also as well in terms of motivation, like I think routine is absolutely vital. Like it is so easy. Like for me, I need a routine when I don't have one. Like even during lockdown, I still have to keep a routine. So I had to make my own. So like I now regularly go to the gym in the morning, and that helps me. I can tell when I've had been to the gym in the morning, not because of how productive I am. I also now make a list at the beginning of every week. I don't have like an ongoing to-do list. I make a weekly to-do list. And if I've done that, I'm done. And obviously there is normally like, but that to me, you know, you've got like that ongoing to-do list of what you need to do. If I know I'll do something next week, I add that to next week's to-do list. And that's really helped me as well, because otherwise you've got this never-ending to-do list. But actually sometimes like, well, actually you've done what you needed to do this week. So we'll do that next week. That's fine. So that's another thing as well in terms of give yourself a little bit of a pat on the back every now and again.
Yeah. Oh, there's some good tips. I like it. It's either go up a mountain or go for a duvet, but give yourself a day off because you're the boss. I mean, that's a good kind of whatever you want to do on your day off. It's your day off. I'm mindful of.
I think that's the first day I've had under a duvet for about 2 years yesterday, to be honest. It's mostly because Lola was there.
It sounds like you were well overdue a duvet day. I'm mindful of time to make sure, obviously, people get some of their evenings back. So, you know, massive thank you, Andy and Beth, like hearing your stories and, you know, your journeys, you know, while you're both social enterprises, the sort of journeys that you've taken and the way that you've approached going about stuff is really different. And that's sort of what we were hoping to get from the stories today, to sort of inspire other people to think about, you know, maybe they've been thinking too long, they've been dreaming too long, and they need to kind of just like, you know, take that step and do stuff. So there's a couple of good events that we have coming up that sort of link into connecting young professionals as well. So we've got we're working with Invisible, who obviously we're also based in the Federation, so we're doing our walking tours with them, maximum 5 people. So if you want to get out and get some fresh air and do something good, you can get out and see a bit more of Manchester and support another really great cause in the city. And then we've also got a speed mentoring event that we're doing for free at the end of this month on National Mentoring Day, which I want to say is Tuesday, the 27th of October. So I'd love to link in with you, Beth and Andy, on that one, because we're really keen, you know, any, you know, 16 plus, you know, free, who, if you're there to kind of get something, you can help somebody, or, you know, you need some help, whatever matches we can make. I think in the current climate, we're really keen to sort of help people connect right now. And I think trying to create that networking online has been really hard. So we're just going to go for it and try it and make it work. Either, you know, get breakout rooms going. So hopefully we'll see you there. I'll follow up with you both. But massive thank you for your time and your stories.
Thank you for having us.
I know I'll be connecting with you both after this to see what else we can do to help both in JCI in Manchester and ourselves individually. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you everyone else for listening.
Yeah, thanks Katie and Fed for linking us up as well.
No.
Thank
you. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good one, Beth. Bye.
Bye. Sorry, I just need to like.
That's all right.